Hi, this is Now is the Time to Talk. I'm your host, Jesse Gillis, and today I have a special guest, Will Thomas. And to start our show, I'd like to read a little something. This is from Kevin Tillman. He's speaking about his experience in Iraq, Afghanistan, in regards to Pat Tillman, his brother. Somehow we were sent to invade a nation because it was a direct threat to the American people, or to the world, or harbored terrorists, or was involved in 9/11, or received weapons-grade uranium from Niger, or had a mobile weapons lab, or WMDs, or had a need to be liberated, or we needed to establish a democracy, or to stop an insurgency, or stop a civil war we created that can't be called a civil war even though it is. Somehow profiting from tragedy and horror is tolerated. Somehow the death of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people is tolerated. Somehow subversion of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution is tolerated. Somehow torture is tolerated. Somehow reason is being discarded for faith, dogma, and nonsense. Somehow a narrative is more important than reality. Somehow being politically informed, diligent, and skeptical has been replaced by apathy through active ignorance. Somehow nobody is accountable for this. And here he's speaking about his time in Iraq, his experience there. Mm-hmm. But today I have you on the show.
Well, glad to be here, Jesse. So, how would you like me to start?
Well, I brought you on. I asked for you to be here. I met you a few months back. We met a protest, a vigil outside of Chris Pappas's office in Manchester. But you, how did you get started? How did you become a peace activist?
Well, let's go back a ways here. First, by the way, I was born in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Saw that.
And my father was a World War II veteran. He got as far as Newfoundland before the war ended. But he was recalled to Korea in 1950. So he was away for a while. When he came back, he worked at several jobs, but he decided to make the Army a career. So he was deployed to Germany for 3 years, and then we came and followed him, my mother and brother. And we came back, and he wanted to go back again for a second. So we did. And while I was there, by the way, the first time we were there was 1955, 10 years after World War II had ended. We were in a place called Kaiserslautern, south of Frankfurt. And there were buildings still bombed out, hadn't been restored.
It's only 10 years after.
10 years. So anyway, I spent almost 6 years of my life in Germany. Got to meet a lot of people, German people. Graduated from high school in Augsburg, Germany. The speaker at our graduation was Dick Powell. Maybe a lot of people don't, older people would know who he was. He was the voice of Radio Free Europe. And anyway, so I was 18, decided to go back to the States. My parents were still going to stay there for a while. And I didn't know what to do with myself. So I decided, I knew what the Army was like, so I joined the Navy. Mm-hmm. Clean sheets and good food, I thought. So I ended up on a ship called the USS Okinawa. Mm-hmm. It was an LPH-3 ship, and with helicopters, not planes. Mm-hmm. And in October of 1962, my ship became involved in the blockade, they call it a quarantine, around Cuba in October of '62.
Right.
When the world came about that close to a nuclear war. Mm-hmm. So from that moment on, and I left, by the way, I was in reserves for 2 years. and then came back, decided to go to college. Oh, they wanted me to re-enlist, by the way. And I said, no, I was with the OI division, Operations Intelligence, radar. And I remember one time being on the ship, I was up duty, and there was a ship approaching us, and we thought maybe it was a Russian ship. So I see somebody doing this. So somebody's waving. So I wave back, and I think, here's the enemy, possibly, waving to me, and I'm waving to him. I never forgot that, in terms of what might have happened later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm back in the States. I go to college, Keene State College. 66, oh, and 64 in August was the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Yeah.
Allegedly an attack by North Vietnamese gunboats on 2 American destroyers. And that gave the impetus to President Johnson to escalate our presence there. And that included bombing the hell out of North Vietnam, starting well, shortly thereafter. But the first troops arrived in March of 1965. And so I'm in college, and in '66, and I'm aware of what's happened in Vietnam, but I started to meet a couple Vietnam veterans who had been there early. And I actually had a couple of fraternity brothers who weren't doing well academically. So some of the brothers helped them with their papers because they weren't exactly studious, to avoid being drafted at that point, even though they were in college.
Yeah.
And then I went to UNH for grad school, and there I met more veterans, combat veterans, and started seeing films about Vietnam. And basically, that's what made me become a peace activist.
Yeah.
When I started talking to people who were there and said, we were lied to. And so at that point, I started reading more and going to rallies. And when I started teaching, I had a master's degree. I went to Central High School in Manchester. That was 1969. In May 4th, 1970, you know what happened in Ohio?
No.
4 dead.
Oh, okay.
Ohio. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. The 4 students who were murdered, killed. 9 were injured, 1 paralyzed for life. Really got to me in terms of, oh, and the students wanted to have a walkout. And some of the teachers said, no, let's plan something. This was, I think, on a Wednesday. On Friday after school, in the park nearby, we'll have a rally. We'll have musicians, we'll have speakers. And so they agreed. And it was fantastic. And then we had a parade through some of the streets of Manchester. Some pictures in the paper. 2 of my friends, English teachers, were seen in these photos. They were dismissed at the end of the year, non-renewed, for being at a protest.
Yeah.
This is the time when the union leader was saying, love it or leave it. In other words, if you're going to protest, get out. And of course, we were saying, change it or lose it, the country, at this point. So, and I heard Richard Nixon, when I was at UNH, running for president, say he had a plan to end the war in Vietnam. One student said, please tell us your plan. I said, I can't do that right now. It's secret.
Oh,
and of
my
course,
goodness.
what we found out, he sent Henry Kissinger to Paris. The Johnson administration had participated in peace talks
Yeah.
with the North Vietnamese. Nixon sends Kissinger,
Yeah.
nasty man, responsible for the deaths of millions of people,
Yeah.
including Cambodia and East Timor. I could go on, but so what happens is Kissinger says, we'll offer you a better deal.
Now, this is all in secret because he's going to lose the election to
Right.
Humphrey Bogart, or
Yeah.
not Bogart.
Hubert Humphrey.
Hubert Humphrey.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, that was the year where, you know, obviously John F. Kennedy had been killed in 1963, assassinated. By the way, there's a book I'll recommend to everybody, and you as well. It's called JFK and the Unspeakable.
Yeah.
Why he died and why it matters. And it was written by a guy named James Douglas, 2 S's, who went on tour with Oliver Stone. You know, Oliver Stone made Platoon,
Yeah.
Vietnam combat veteran, because he read the book and he said, we have to get this out. And of course, all roads led to either the Pentagon, the CIA, killed Kennedy. Of course, this is not all revealed because the Warren Commission that examined the assassination was Chief Justice Earl Warren. But he was busy with other things, so the assistant was a guy named Allen Dulles.
Yeah.
Who was Allen Dulles?
Yeah.
Head of the CIA. When Kennedy was informed about a plan to invade Cuba in 1961, it wasn't his plan, but he accepted it. He said it was a debacle. It's called the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Yeah.
And so Kennedy said, you know, because it was a CIA organized thing. The CIA, I think I want to bust it into 1,000 pieces. Well, Allen Dulles heard that, right? He was the head of the CIA. So when he takes over the commission, I think, and other people think, there was kind of a whitewash about the involvement, probably, of our own government.
Yeah.
Killing him, not the Soviets, not Cuba. Anyway, so that's going on. I'm upset with Nixon, Agnew, the vice president, what's going on in Vietnam. I resign my job. I leave the country. I go, oh, and I had been there the year before, going to my old high school, visiting some people.
Mm-hmm.
And I met some people on a train. They were Australians. And they said, are you American? I was going to say, no, I'm Canadian, because you know a lot of people were upset with Americans,
Yeah.
as they are now. And they said, I said, I'm a teacher. I just resigned. They said, we're teachers too. There's about 4 of them, 3 women and a man. And they said, well, might you be interested in teaching in England? I said, how could I do that? We'll send you information. So what happens is I end up teaching school in London for about 6 months
Okay.
at a Plashett County Secondary Girls' School in East London.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when I actually started in July, and when I first walked into the room, there was a movie out called To Serve with Love with a guy named Sidney Poitier. All the students stood up and said, good morning, sir. I couldn't believe it. You know, it was like Central High School, it was none of that. But anyway, so I came back. I spent 6 months at the school. Physically was exhausted from traveling from West London to East London, an hour sometimes or more. And if I could get a seat on the subway,
Yeah.
I was lucky to correct my papers. Anyway, so I'm back, and at Central, I got back in. The principal liked me, and my department head liked me, who was a World War II veteran, who was on Omaha Beach in the second wave.
Okay.
So I'm back teaching, and some people tell me, have you heard about Howard Zinn? I said, no. Howard Zinn is a historian. They said, here's a book. And I looked at it and I said, this looks good. So I bought my own copy later, and several others. And Howard Zinn was a bombardier in World War II, and was involved in the first use of napalm on a French village where Germans were, which killed more French people than Germans. And he was so upset when he got all his decorations and discharge. He had a big envelope, put all his medals in there and everything, and said, wrote on it, never again would be a supporter of war.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm involved now in learning more, going to a few protests. Then I hear about a group of veterans who have organized themselves in 1985 in Maine. All, or I think all except one, Vietnam veterans. So I look into it. I become a member. January of 1988, which means what? I've been involved there for 47 years.
Well, I was born in March of '88.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I joined, and we have a group in Manchester. We raise money actually to send medical supplies. My brother's a doctor. He gets other doctors. We're sending it to Vietnam. We help establish a village called Friendship Village for Vietnamese children whose limbs were blown off by mines we left behind, unexploded ordnance. We have conventions. I go to, my first convention was in Manchester, at downtown Manchester, at the Radisson at that time. And the main speaker was a guy named George Wald. He was a Nobel Science Prize winner. And he had given a speech called A Generation in Search of a Future for young people, because the war was still ongoing. Or no, had been at that time. He spoke in, when was it? 1992, I think.
This is after the Gulf War.
Yeah, after the Gulf War. And, but he, no, I wasn't, no, it was 80, I joined in 88. It was in 91, the convention, and this George Wald had given the speech. And two of the people there as guests were Russians who had fought in the Afghan war. Russia had been invited in. And they were like shell-shocked. They had PTS tremendously. And so, you know, their English wasn't good. They drank a lot, I remember, at that time. But yeah, I got involved and went to conventions. We organized protests. We got kicked out of a parade in Manchester because we had allegedly political signs, support the troops, bring them home.
Yeah,
we were actually kicked out.
Quite political.
Police car came, told us to get on the sidewalk. What for? I got orders. You're not supposed to have political signs. It's not political. To this day, there were about 10 of us. I regret saying, no, we're not going on the sidewalk. We're veterans. There's a World War II veteran, Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans. And they're telling us we can't participate. And by the way, we're in the 3rd Division. They usually put us in the rear.
Yeah.
Vestry rings with our banners. Okay? The junior ROTC people would be in front of us. The Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
I mean, just insulting. To this day, I regret saying, Oh, and he asked me my ID. I said I didn't want to give him something. He said, if you don't, I'll arrest you. To this day, I regret giving him my ID and going to the sidewalk, the rest of us, while people were passing us by. And then finally, you got to talk to somebody. Oops.
Yeah. Take a moment.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Pause and just fix that real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. There. Oops.
Here.
On. All right, good.
Is that? Could you give a test?
Test, test, 1, 2, test. Testing.
Can you look towards Jesse and test?
Test. Good?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So here I was in the street and going to the sidewalk, and I, to this day, regret, as I said,
Yeah.
that we did that. It would have been great headlines. World War II vet, vets arrested
For political
in a
science.
Memorial Day parade, So anyway, I know you had other questions you wanted
No, that's.
to talk to me about.
And that was the Gulf War there at that time. When was this? What year was this?
That would have been, I'm trying to remember. No, this was 2006. As a matter of fact, I think I had something about that in here. 2006.
So they put you in the third ranks of the Memorial Day parade.
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that they let you in the parade because it's seen
Yeah,
as
here it is. Here it is. Here's part of it. Yeah, it was 2006. And we had an Iraq War vet
Yeah.
as well.
Well, because it's
Yeah.
seen as if you don't outright support the troops, no matter where they're sent. If you don't question where they're sent, but you just support them, then you're seen as unpatriotic.
Right, right.
It's an un-American activity to not just support. You don't question where they go.
No, and by the way, when the Gulf War vets came back, we were part of the parade in Concord. Okay, some people didn't want to go, but we said, hey, we honor, quote, the warrior, not the war.
Yeah.
Particularly about Vietnam. So Vets for Peace pulled from City Parade. And then we had articles written about us. I had to write something. I did write something. I wish I had it here. Yeah. And what else? Oh, another thing is, too, we decided we helped pay for a monument in a Veterans Park, not the Victory Park in Manchester. And there's a little monument to Rennie Gagnon, who allegedly was one of the people who raised the flag on Iwo Jima.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay? We find out later that he was not in that particular picture, in an earlier one. But anyway, he said, don't glorify war. There is no glory in it.
Yeah.
I called him up one time and asked him to come into class. He said he couldn't do it.
Mhm.
But when I started reading and seeing, I saw some films, went to a convention, met a poet named Bill Earhart. And Bill had been in Vietnam, was wounded severely, and he came back very bitter, but he was writing poetry. It was somehow came out of him. And I've given you a book of some of his poems.
Mhm.
And another guy, and I asked my student, we took some of his poems and my students, and I went over them, and I asked them for their comments, and I sent them. I had met Bill at a convention in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, his first book of poetry.
Yeah.
I have it still. And he was a member of Veterans for Peace, as I was. And I said, Bill, I got some students reading some of your poems, and they want to ask you questions or send their comments. So he said, okay. So I did. Guess what? Every kid, not all kids did it, sent him a note, a letter. He responded back to each kid with a letter and a poem. I wish I had brought those. I can send those to you later.
Yes,
You know?
please do.
But another thing too, speaking of, if I can find it, Meadowbrook, what's it called now up in Guilford? There's concerts every summer. I forget.
I've never been. I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
So we were invited because Crosby, Stills, and Nash were on tour. They stopped there. And for every tour they went, they contacted veterans for peace.
Mm-hmm.
We were invited, so I was there. And but we weren't invited into the actual, you could hear them.
Yeah.
You could go out and see. But before the concert, Graham Nash came over to our table. And I gave him a sweatshirt, one of our t-shirt, some of our material. And here he is. I didn't take that picture, but here's Graham Nash.
Yeah.
And with Vet for Peace, Brooks Campbell, a roadie, and another roadie here for Graham Nash. And he said, I'm going to dedicate a song to you in our concert. And the song was that he had written, Military Madness.
Yeah.
You got to hear. Military Madness. by
Military
Graham
Madness.
Nash. But anyway, all right, wanted to get to War is a Racket, didn't we?
We will get there.
Okay.
There was a few things. It was 68 that Nixon committed treason, that you could hear LBJ in the tapes. That he didn't bring it up, but it was unbecoming. It was treasonous for Nixon as an unelected official to have a secret deal using Kissinger to push off the peace negotiations to help his presidential candidacy. That's something like the October surprise for Ronald Reagan.
Exactly.
With the Iran.
By the way, I called for Reagan's impeachment.
Did you?
When he was sending support and having special forces blow up stuff in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Because the dictator had been deposed by the Sandinistas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And they were funneling money to death squads attacking civilians. And I think that's where, what was that slogan, to be a patriot, kill a priest?
Yeah.
Because the people that looked most like or acted the most like the supposed socialists or communists or would be most aligned with the Soviets were the Catholic Church, because they were helping the poor. They were actually going out in the communities and they were giving, socialize, they were giving away, they were helping the needy. And those were the people that were attacked because they were the most like of.
Well, now you're talking about El Salvador, particularly in Guatemala.
Okay.
Now, we went to El Salvador, my wife and I went the first time as an election observer, even though my Spanish is poor. And second time, we went to commemorate the anniversary of the assassination of Archbishop Oscar Romero. And so we went there, and that's where 4 nuns were murdered by the forces we were and the bullet that probably killed Romero was American bullet. A week or 2 before he was killed, we went to the chapel, the small church where he fell, and his house was right nearby. Small house, not a big mansion, didn't want one. The bullet probably, he was saying in a sermon to President Carter, please don't send any more bullets, any more weapons.
Yeah.
They're killing our people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I remember that very well, having been there and been to the place where the Jesuits were all killed. Their housekeeper and her daughter happened to be there in San Salvador. So, yeah, it's horrible memories about what we have done. I mean, let's face it, we have supported so many coups, either tacitly or we support the people, we fund them, we train them, we give them weapons. Iran, you mentioned Iran, 53, the overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh.
Yeah.
Democratic leader, although he leaned a little social. He wanted the oil that Britain was taking for his people.
They had like they had an 85-15 cut on the oil, I believe, for the Anglo-Iranian oil company.
Yeah.
And he said, this is robbery.
Exactly.
These leaders were being fed opiate. There was something to do with drugs, and they were getting most of the Iranians' assets. And it would have, the statistics came out that the oil funds would have solved a lot of their programs, their social programs.
And the leader of the CIA, the Kermit Roosevelt, the grandson of Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And then the following year, speaking of Allen Dulles and his brother, who was Secretary of State for Eisenhower, John Foster Dulles, they had holdings in Guatemala, United Fruit.
Yes.
And Arbenz, a leader, Guatemalan leader, was bent on, again, nationalizing, paying off some of these companies, but again, like Iran, getting more of the money for the poor people there and the land, which these big plantations had taken, you know. So guess what? He was overthrown too, Arbenz, CIA.
And they had to spin it. That was Edward Bernays, right? Considered the father of propaganda, to help paint the Arbenz government in a way that they were somehow Soviets and they were in our sphere of influence, and how they were treating the people. And it got enough support that we were able to, the president was able to use our military force, and we wouldn't have too much of an issue because we need to stop the Soviets. The Red Scare had already started, right? Am I mistaken on that?
No, you're not.
And it continues. And for the longest time, it was to stop the Soviets. Everything was to stop the Soviets. The Vietnam War was a domino effect. We can't let Vietnam fall.
Right.
And I think McNamara and Bundy, the NSA director that helped, who denies his role but acknowledges the absolute failure and mistake that Vietnam was, those are the only two bigwigs that actually admit, some of them later in their autobiographies in the 90s, and say, this was a mistake. This was a...
Well, certainly, you know, McNamara knew, Johnson knew, first of all, the Gulf of Tonkin didn't really happen the way they said it did.
Yeah.
Okay. They lied. Well, look, all presidents lie. All governments lie. That's factual. There's a guy named I.F. Stone, who was a great reporter, had his own publication, and used to go to colleges and speak to young people who were thinking of being newspaper people, reporters, journalists. And he said, my advice to you is just remember, all governments lie.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
And by the way, before I forget too, another, you know, I think I gave you something about by William Blum. William Blum was a fantastic writer who had many books, but one of the books talked about, I can't find it here, I thought I had it, but how the U.S. has, as I alluded to earlier, assassinated people and deposed people, overthrown governments, all from the name of profit and power. The empire.
Yeah.
The United States government has an empire, although it seems to be in decline. All empires fall eventually. So, yeah. Patrice, I just read something about him recently. Patrice Lumumba, who was elected in the Congo, the Belgians.
Was it 61?
61. He was assassinated.
Yeah.
The Cuban doctor, Che Guevara, was fingered by the CIA for Bolivia and killed. It kind of reminds me of Israel is very good at assassinations. And when anybody comes to prominence, bingo, assassination.
Yeah.
Or exile, or imprisonment. Anyway, I'm off track.
And even here, it's influenced through money. So where you can't get rid of these people, or you're forced to use them. It's like the military. Open war is the last resort, but assassinations. And the earliest ones is just outright bribery.
Yeah.
You can talk about how our Congress is owned, those APAC, and the big money that owns our legislature, and it's at the federal level the highest, and that trickles down to, like, there's almost none at the local level, but at the federal level, these people, they don't push policies. And I keep hearing it's a negative correlation between the public will and what the national policies are, that it's almost never, it's nothing that we want, but we don't have, the majority of us don't have that kind of money. We're tuned out, and we don't support these candidates, so they're not beholden to us. They're beholden to somebody else.
Exactly. It's about the money. It really, I mean, what's the word? We have a plutocracy. We have our own oligarchs. We always hear about the Russian oligarchs. We have our own. Yeah. Not just Musk, but Bezos and
Professor Casagrada says it's a funny thing because since the Ukraine war, it's been referring to the Russian billionaires as oligarchs, but our billionaires, they're billionaires here, but they're oligarchs there. Our billionaires are good. They're, so long as they're associated with the right party, they're egalitarians, they're humanitarians, they're trying to lift all boats, but yet they enrich themselves, grossly enrich themselves. And
we actually do have, though, a plutocracy, a rule by the rich, a rule by the corporations. It's really of, by, and for the corporations. This country is owned.
Yeah.
And, we, the people, can protest. We do protest. Imagine if we didn't do anything. We didn't be out in the streets. Right now there seems to be an upswing around the country against Musk, President Musk.
Yeah.
And, we still have First Amendment so far, although very upset that the Supreme Court, of course, is Republican, right-wing Republican.
Yeah.
Nothing against Republicans. Good Republicans are good people, but these people are off the rails.
And I think, tell me if you disagree, when it's most important that we have our First Amendment, at a time like a war, that's what one of the civil liberties that go. You can't speak out against a war, and so now with the targeting of anybody who's speaking pro-Palestinian that doesn't have U.S. citizenship, or to become to U.S. citizenship, or being allowed, or losing your job. I think of World War II, the Japanese Americans thrown in internment camps.
Right.
You lose your businesses, your homes. I think of I forget what the law was, but anybody who presented anti-war sentiment to be locked up or interrogated or lose your job. And that's when you need your civil liberties the most, is in the most stressful times.
The Patriot Act, don't forget, after 9/11.
Patriot Act. Was it 2005? No.
Well, no, right after 2001.
Was it right after? Was it 2000?
It was 2001, 2002, right around there. But I was thinking of another one too, speaking, 9/11. There was another 9/11 in Chile. And again, Nixon and Kissinger were involved in that.
Yeah.
And that was the socialist Allende, Salvador Allende, was democratically elected.
Yeah.
The people. There were American corporations in Chile who didn't like his policies.
Yeah.
Kissinger, Nixon, well, Kissinger was the main culprit. Nixon agreed to overthrow Allende. And Pinochet, a dictator, came in.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
When the democracy votes the wrong way, their leaders are removed. They're targeted. Whether they're anti-American or pro-Soviet, and that's been the constant thing. And it's been perfect for them to overthrow, for U.S. power projection through our hemisphere, right? Through the Western hemisphere, but that was the same thing with Iran, because so when the Shah was being deposed, I don't know if our intelligence agencies knew that the Shah was going to be overthrown in a revolution, but when they found out, tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, they knew, they planned it.
Well, they helped.
No, you're talking about the 1979.
1979.
Yeah, the Ayatollah.
But they would rather have had the fundamentalist regime of Khomeini than the socialist or communist parties take control of the government, because that would give the Soviet power projection in the Middle East. And the Middle East was our plunder. And that was always why Israel was there to begin with, and why we tried to keep stable power and stabilize the Israelis against the Middle Eastern nations and keep them destabilized and break them up so that we could always get the oil flowing.
Exactly.
And that's always been a thing. It's always been for us. It's been good for, I mean, generally good for economic activity, but really good for our corporations. They could do a lot with that.
The Carter Doctrine, remember the Carter Doctrine was the oil in the Middle East. Nobody messes with it, touches it.
Yeah.
For us. And then, of course, the Saudis and others said, no. For a while, remember? Well, you don't remember, but no. We had long lines for gasoline, and then different days, alphabet for, anyway.
They were upset about the 73 war. But since Bretton Woods, we've had the royal families back. That we will always be at their back. So as long as they keep the oil flowing at a good price.
Yeah, exactly.
But they were upset enough during the oil shortage or the crisis in the early 70s.
Yeah, yeah. Also, by the way, reading about the book I thought I had here. Yeah, Terrorism and War.
Yeah. By
Howard Zinn, and people when the Russians came in, actually, bin Laden was supporting us, the U.S., for a while. And of course, we were arming the Mujahideen, who morphed into Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. And when 9/11 happened, you remember, before that, Bush, George W., had invited Taliban members to come to Texas to talk about oil deals.
Wow.
Bin Laden is the author, supposedly, of 9/11. The guy they still got at Guantanamo, Khashoggi, I think his name is.
Yeah.
When Bush said after 9/11, they hate us for our freedom, our religion, our, no. They hate us for our policies. They didn't hate the American people, but when people are desperate, and so bin Laden said, I don't like American policies of supporting Israel and what they're doing to the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
He said that.
Yeah.
I don't like the Americans supporting or helping the Muslims are being attacked in Chechnya. The Muslims are being attacked in different other countries. So it was almost like, it's not, I didn't like the Air Force. You were in the Air Force.
Yeah. Bases
in Saudi Arabia near Mecca.
Yeah, in the Holy Land. There were very concrete things that he did not like.
Yeah.
And granted, he was a zealot and he was a fundamentalist and willing to sacrifice everybody, but he wanted to drag, as it gets retold, he wanted to drag the U.S. into a war in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
He's not from Afghanistan.
$3 trillion we wasted, lives. I mean, I think of, by the way, speaking of arrests, a bunch of us were in Washington, D.C., December, I think it was 12th or 16th, and we were there to protest Obama policies in Afghanistan, killing American citizens with drones in Yemen, among other things, killing droning everybody in Afghanistan, wedding parties.
The legal advisor, Harold Koh of the State Department, he was the State Department legal advisor, but he said that the drone warfare was authorized under the AUMF, same 2001.
Everything was authorized.
Everything, the authorization and use of military force allowed to, as I get told, It's attack anyone, anywhere, at any time under the name of terrorism, and it's a threat to U.S. national security. And so it makes everybody a target if you voice an opinion otherwise, or you're, whatever it is.
Yeah,
so you could drone strike into 22 plus countries.
Yeah. It's, well, anyway, I remember that day, though, because we were with Daniel Ellsberg. We were up against the fence. Some of us had chained themselves to the fence.
Yeah.
And snowing, it was cold. Obama was in the White House telling the media that things are going well in Afghanistan. We knew they weren't, because we had friends there. And so Ellsberg was there. Chris Hedges, I don't know if you,
yeah.
War is a force that gives us meaning.
Yeah.
A wartime correspondent journalist was arrested. I was arrested. Will Hopkins was arrested. And you know, Will is about 6'6", whatever, 200. And, you know, they were asking people who were sitting down to get up, you know, put the cuffs on easier. And Will said, "This is my first arrest. No, I want you guys to hear me." So, you know, he said, they were laughing. Look at him, you know. But anyway, so yeah, we made a statement, but the Washington Post the next day had one tiny little item and a picture of Daniel Ellsberg.
Yeah.
And then CNN had a little clip, but 130 veterans arrested in front of the White House. Nobody cared, basically. But didn't stop us from doing more actions, you know, to make our point. So anyway, all right, what else you got? You got the war racket?
The war is a racket. General Smedley Butler.
What do you know about him?
Most decorated, I believe, the most decorated Marine. He was in the war against Spain. He was in World War I. He died shortly before World War II. He exposed the business push, which was a corporate scheme with a few Army people to overthrow or remove FDR and install Smedley Butler as there's some speculation, but the commission afterwards said that no, there was some discussion here. There were kooks involved, but there was some discussion about taking FDR because he was pushing reforms, social. I mean, Social Security, the CCC, tax hikes on the rich up to 90%, even through Eisenhower, and that built a lot of the modern infrastructure we have today.
Yeah.
But they did not like that. They did not like the handing out of money. It was a drain on their profits. And so he exposed him. He writes this book. He gives speeches all over that he's been running a racket. That
war is a racket. Yep.
That he was working all his service. He was working for corporations.
Yep.
Oil, energy, food, banks.
One quick quote. War is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. Yeah, we're all over the world.
Yeah.
Of course. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. Racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of people. Only a small inside group, as you know, and we know, knows what it is about. It's conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the very many. Out of war, a few people made huge fortunes. After World War I, there was a commission to investigate war profiteering. Okay, now, I think a few companies may have been fined. And in the Civil War, the same thing. A lot of the
it was a crime.
Millionaires, railroad people made tons of money. And it's always been that way. So, war is a racket? Yeah, he was everywhere. He was in the Philippines, he was in Central America, he was in, where else? Well, I know in World War I too.
Yeah.
Smedley Butler. But war is a racket.
And he passed away, I think, 2 years before Pearl Harbor, but he was saying that we were gearing up for another war against Japan.
Right.
Because it was thought that FDR is going to try and get us into World War II, and it might be through Japan. to get an attack by Japan on us. And there is plenty in the historical record, in the National Archives, of high-ranking naval officials and Stinson, Secretary of War, Stinson's diary, Stinson's diary of just making sure that the Japanese do the first overt physical assault. They don't know where or when, but making sure the Japanese draw blood first, because that will give us the moral justification. It will seem justified, and that will get us into the war, because there was money to be made. There was always money. There were commissions on World War I to find out how much money, who was making profits on this, because no matter who, and even in the Third Reich, World War II, all the giant industrialists who were making so much money off the war effort.
Henry Ford, for one.
Henry Ford.
Texaco, IBM, the first primitive IBM computers were used in the concentration camps to identify people. And who else?
FDR called, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, but I mean, Americans made money. And, it was Prescott Bush. I'm losing my voice here.
Oh, yes.
Prescott Bush was a banker with Brown and Brothers in New York City.
Yeah.
Later became Chase Manhattan, I think.
Yeah. This is grandfather to George W.
Yeah. And he was the guy who set up the deals with Henry Ford, of course, was an anti-Semite, and arranged for Texaco, IBM, all these different companies. He was the go-between, okay? And made lots of money himself. Of course, he later became Senator Prescott Bush from Connecticut, you know. So, it's a damn dirty business.
FDR.
There were laws, Trading with the Enemies Act. It was overlooked. People in our government knew these people were making deals. I mean, Henry Ford, the trucks that were being built in Germany were used in the war. I think maybe some tanks were also constructed.
Yeah. And FDR told Prescott Bush, he said, had one word for him, it said treason. That was the one thing I remember in the record that he had said to him because of for his business accounts with Nazi Germany, for trading with the enemy. But that's the thing. So even when this war opened up with Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, how many of our software companies were involved? Texas Instruments on Russian warheads. Like there's open trading because there's money to be made. And I think it's over
war
70.
Is a racket.
It's something like over 70% of all war zones across the earth have U.S. manufacturers behind them, supplying both sides, making money, hand over fist. And they give cover that they're...
Yeah. It's really, I don't know, it's disgusting when you stop and think about what this country could be like if more money were spent on education, on health care, on infrastructure. I mean, you know, we've done little bits here and there, but all that money for yachts, for super mansions, for this, you know, the material things these people purchase, the rich, the wealthy. And now I understand President Musk and co-President Trump have got a bill that, again, will extend the tax cuts mostly for the billionaires and millionaires. Where are the people who say this is wrong, you know?
And so you see some of the protests now because of the cuts. You see some of the protests now. You said there was an uptick, and it seems like that 501 protest that's pretty active now, and will continue as the layoffs keep coming, as the material conditions of our daily lives continue to worsen slowly. But people feel the pressure, and it's ridiculous, and it's not accepted.
Well, my wife says she wonders how many people who voted for the felon, the 47th president, have buyer's remorse when they start feeling the pain. On the first day, the price of eggs will come down. Did he say that?
I don't remember.
He did. Yeah, eggs. I mean, other things he said, you know, he's a liar. He is the P.T. Barnum of the 21st century. And he knows there's a sucker born every minute.
So this past election, we have the choice between the two candidates who are likely to get the most votes. You have Harris and you have Trump. And you think a lot of people, so when I say I'm voting for somebody else, I'm not voting for one of them, they tell me it's a wasted vote. And I say, well, I won't vote for one because that's the policy of genocide in Gaza is not accepted. I don't see a difference with this candidate. And I know the one that's coming in is going to be worse.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can't accept one. That's not good governance to just accept it.
Exactly.
Overlook that. So how do I vote for that person?
Exactly.
And so I won't vote for the other, and I'm told it's a wasted vote, and it's a vote for the, depends where you are, it's a vote for one, but then you have 3 votes. You have your vote, you have the vote against, the vote for, and so you're left with what? I can't, because it's considered a throwaway vote.
Well, you know, there's a song, 2 members of Vets for Peace, what was it called? Oh, the lesser of 2 weasels.
Lesser of 2.
2 weasels
Yeah.
in terms of presidential candidates.
Yeah.
So I voted my conscience this time.
You vote your conscience, regardless if they're going to win
I did
or
not vote for Harris. I did not vote, obviously, for Trump.
But you stick to what your principles, so you feel like I chose the right person.
Yeah.
And you can sit with that, regardless of what
And in
happens.
the primary, I think I voted ceasefire in the
Yeah.
Hampshire primary
Yeah.
as well. No, war is a damn dirty business. It's a racket. And so much of our money goes to killing a lot of innocent people.
It's state-sponsored killing. You
It
are
is.
authorizing American men and women to go kill and be killed for foreign policy, or what was the defense? War as defense is what we always think is like the justifiable war. It's for our defense, but it's always over there. It's somewhere overseas, far away.
And it's often against brown and black people.
Yeah. And the difficult questions, well, if God's on our side, or God's on their side, who's on our side when it's white on white, or it's people that look like us?
Yeah.
But so for Iraq, war isn't evil, and yet, so when you hear somebody talk today, like, oh, Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11, that is unfortunate. And so what do? We went to war with them.
Yeah.
So they were somehow Saddam Hussein's regime and the people of Iraq were guilty for 9/11. So they killed 3,000 people. So we must go and slaughter millions?
Millions. And displace people, refugees.
It's no different in the sense what happened for Gaza. October 7th happens, and you have 1,200 deaths, however it played out, but you go and you slaughter over 200,000?
Yeah,
as this will add up, as they'll find the more missing people and the secondary indirect deaths. There already was a concentration camp, and so a little bit of blood is your justification. You were looking for revenge and opportunity?
Yeah, they don't realize prior to October, and by the way, it was horrific, okay? But I also discovered that the Hannibal principle went into effect. In other words, when the Israelis understand that some of their people are being taken, they actually, with the Palestinians or anybody, they shoot. They don't care. They shoot at the targets.
Yeah.
And that may have cost 200 lives, it's estimated, of innocent, Israeli, not just soldiers, but civilians.
And it's an admission by the IDF. The recent Minister of Defense, Yolan Gallant, admitted there was a Hannibal directive, and several people, and gunships opened fire on any vehicle moving that could possibly carry Israeli hostages back, because it's like our slogan here. You see it on loose lips sink ships, right? That old propaganda. You keep your mouth closed. You don't speak about these things because it makes us weak, or it might expose something. You could be terrorized and give away something.
Yeah. Also, the mass rapes. No. From every source I've read, credible sources. There may have been a few, possibly. But what was the other thing too?
The beheaded babies.
Babies beheaded. Babies put in an oven. No.
That's
false.
That settler group, I forget the guy's name. He came out. He came out and admitted whatever. He was one of the people who wore blue helmets and went out and recovered. He said he lied. He was making up. He went with it. But that's all. That was known as of sometime January or February last year. It was almost a year ago. He was lying. But CNN never retracted.
No.
And CNN never, the family, they were going to interview the family of the daughter who this supposedly happened to, and they just never went through with the interview. The family didn't want it because they were using it for propaganda.
Yeah. Yeah, and in war, the first casualty is truth.
Yeah.
And it's so much indoctrination, so much propaganda from all sides. But Hamas, don't forget, was supported by Israel in the original elections in 2005, 2006.
It is in some way, it's the Pied Piper strategy when you promote the worst candidate of the other side because your chances will be better when you come out to the actual presidency.
Right.
So when Clinton's campaign for the 2016 election, when they're funding or getting or influencing the media to promote Trump and not Jeb Bush, Trump and Cruz, they're giving him all the spotlight. They're like, he'll be easier to take down. They do it now.
Yeah.
They did it with all the MAGA candidates in the past midterms. Showcase those people, give them all the spotlight so you could take them down. And Hamas would be, you don't have to negotiate with terrorists. They're terrorists, you don't have to negotiate with them.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier than the PLO, right? That was the organization beforehand? Yeah.
Yeah, Yasser Arafat. But they wanted to play off Hamas against the Palestinian Authority.
Yeah.
And because they don't want a unified Palestinian entity. Netanyahu, by the way, the charter of Likud, his party, says from the river to the sea will all be Israel.
Yeah.
Except for now Gaza, which will be Trump's, with Netanyahu. So, yeah, I mean, right now, by the way, I have friends in the West Bank, and it's horrible. They're doing to the West Bank what they've done in part to Gaza. They're demolishing houses, homes, neighborhoods, villages, again, killing their animals, burning their olive trees. It's horrendous. They're war crimes. And where's the corporate? That's the problem. Where's the corporate media? They just fired Joy Reid, I think, what was it, MSNBC?
Yeah.
And Mehdi Hassan, I think it was?
Yeah.
Who had a kind of a justice stance about people who were being oppressed. And that would include the Palestinians for 77 years. The Nakba, when 1948, when Israel was established, created. No, it's, and there were a lot of atrocities on both sides, but mostly on the Israeli side.
It's not even close.
They had terrorist gangs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember his name. Menachem Begin was the head of one terrorist group who shook hands with Jimmy Carter. Remember Camp David agreement? No, it's, the problem is people don't look at history. They say it has no meaning. Well, how do you know it has no meaning? The present is the present because of what happened in history. And in order to rectify what's going on today, you've got to look backwards. Most people don't.
No.
They don't. I know, I was a history teacher. My students were.
Yes.
That's why I did a lot of, we put Harry Truman on trial for dropping the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
We had pro and con arguments. I gave them a lot of materials. They had the government materials. You know, I had speakers come in, Vietnam, Gary Rafferty, a poet, who had in his helmet, he brought in, he said, first of all, it was bomb Hanoi, the second was bomb Saigon, and the third one was bomb New York City. He had devolved into thinking the war was a lie.
Yeah.
By the way, his job was howitzers, but his job was to go out and pick up body parts and put in bags our people.
Yeah.
They had he said they had better howitzers from the Russians. But, and Bill Earhart, you know, wonderful guy, poet. Dave Conley came up to my school, brought a whole box full of his books, his poetry books. Dave went to every kid. And other teachers heard about it and said, I got to go listen to this guy, because I had told some of them about it. And, you know, he was in a group in a French-owned Michelin rubber plantation, and they were told they couldn't fire. 59 of his buddies got killed. They couldn't fire because they would damage the trees. It's crazy. And he came, and Earhart said, you know, one thing I learned when I came back is don't believe what the government says. They were lied to. Young people today. I know a lot of young, I mean, we would go into schools after I retired, Vietnam veteran, Will one time, and Hopkins, and do truth in recruiting. We never told kids not to enlist. We just said, before you enlist, look at this.
Yeah.
You're in for 8 years. MOS, you're not guaranteed that. They may tell you that, but it's not guaranteed.
They don't show you the wounded.
No.
They don't show you the hospitals. They don't show you, I mean, the graveyards that are around the world for American soldiers to be properly buried at major battle sites. They don't show you that, where you'll most likely die if you're sent off to war in a place for your country. And then to find out that how many veterans come back to say, this was not what they told us. And it gets forgotten.
You've been to the wall in Washington, the Vietnam Wall?
I have not.
Okay. You know, 58,000 plus, right?
Yeah.
We went there one time, Memorial Day. We got permission to actually read Martin Luther King's speech of 1967, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. We read the whole thing. I read part of it, right next to the monument to him, you know. But we went to the wall. We had urged people to write letters, place them up against the wall. I wrote a couple. And people would pick them up and read them. But if you took the number of suicides verified from Vietnam veterans, it would be twice as long as that wall, that black wall. When you look at it, you're looking at the names, but you're looking at your face, looking at those names. I had one classmate who was killed, and you know, for what? That war was illegal. It was immoral. It was unjust.
Yeah.
We lost 58,000, 100,000 more suicides, homelessness, drug addiction. You know, I mean, I started my course, Lessons of the Vietnam War, because I had kids in my class whose brother or uncle or father had been in Vietnam. And some of them were nuts. They'd sleep in the basement with a gun next to them. And so I would invite in people like Gary Rafferty, who was there, and Dave Conley, and through letters, Bill Earhart, and another guy who became a minister in Hooksett, New Hampshire there, who brought Gary Rafferty the first time, who was like in the corner like this, and you could tell he was really. And so I tried to get this guy back the next year, the minister. I can't make it. Why don't you call Gary? I said, I don't know. He says, he's better. When he came back from Vietnam, went to the unemployment office. They gave him a card and an address. They went out to it in Nashua, I think. And he got there. It was a coffin factory. He went ballistic, got back in his car, drove back to the unemployment security. He was going to strangle that guy. You don't send a Vietnam veteran, combat veteran, to a coffin factory. But what did he end up doing? He joined the Nashua Fire Department. Guess what? He's picking up pieces of body again.
Yeah.
In car crashes, you know. So anyway, I guess you would say I was lucky. People would come up to me and say, hey, how'd you get out of going to Vietnam? I said, I went in pre-Vietnam, if you will. We were there, but 61 to 63, you know. And, but it was just, and think of the unexploded ordnance, the mines, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam.
Yeah.
It's just awful, awful.
The plaque I bought for VFP's plaque is from a school in Vietnam for children who've grown up with mutations or deformities.
That's the Friendship Village? Is that the one?
It might be the French, I forget the name.
That's the one we helped sponsor.
Yes, and this is the one that with the effects of Agent Orange. It's carried down.
George Mizo came to that convention in Manchester. I met him. He was the guy who started that, one of the people in Vietnam. Yeah.
And it's the same thing in Iraq with unexploded ordnance,
Yep.
or more specifically, depleted uranium rounds.
Oh, cancer.
Cancer, children, young girls with
Yeah.
breast cancer before
Yeah.
the age, I forget how, it's ridiculous.
And I think of Madeleine Albright, her comment
Yeah.
after the first Persian Desert
Yeah,
Storm.
96.
By the way, originally, no, that was the one with W. Bush. Operation Iraqi Liberation spells oil, O-I-L.
Yeah.
They had to change it because it was about oil.
Yeah,
in large
and their concern for the war, for the people that wanted war, their concern was getting over the Vietnam syndrome that America
Yeah.
didn't want to fight for.
Yeah.
That was their concern. So it's not you or I or any of us. It's about them and their foreign policy, power projection, money, this revenue.
Oh, I was going to say about Albright, don't forget.
Yeah.
When she was interviewed on
60 Minutes.
60 Minutes. Madam Secretary, we understand verified 500,000 Iraqi children have died as a result of the severe sanctions. Do you think that is too high a price? No, I don't.
No.
A mother who could say that?
Yeah.
500,000?
Not your kids, and they don't look like you. It's,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
When she came to Portsmouth, I think it was maybe UNH, I was going to go protest. I had something going on. I couldn't, but I did. I think I wrote a letter. She and Kissinger, and ironically, they were both refugees from
Yeah.
Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd have a little more empathy, compassion.
Not at that level. Not the level of strategy
Oh.
and empire. It's all their numbers. They're
I mean,
meaningless.
look at the legacy of Biden, I think. I mean, some people, I was posting stuff, looking at stuff, Genocide Joe.
Yeah. What he oversaw. He's complicit in war crimes.
Of course.
Complicit in genocide. And it's
Of
going to take a
course.
while for that to come back to be
Will they
officially.
ever be tried? No. Netanyahu?
No.
He was welcome in the White House. He's got an arrest warrant out for him. And then they went after the International Criminal Court judge to
Yeah.
arrest him.
I forget his name.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Khan. Yeah.
And it's just appalling. Well, what else? What else?
Well, I wanted to read. We have a few minutes here.
Okay.
For civic responsibility. A republic whose citizens, whose leaders indeed, are chiefly concerned with looking out for number one and ignoring their responsibilities of citizenship, soon cannot ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, or carry on other major duties of the state. When the crisis comes, the people may turn in desperation to the hero administrator, the misty figure somewhere at the summit. But in the end, that hero administrator will not save the republic, although he may govern for a time by force. A democratic republic cannot long endure unless a great many of its citizens stand ready and willing to brighten the corners where they are and to sacrifice much for the nation, if need be. Unless deterioration is arrested, the responsible citizens will be too few to support and protect the irresponsible.
Said by?
Said by? Oh, I forgot the name. I just had the quote. I was like, I can't find the name. But it was in regards to civic responsibility and the deterioration of the United States. And when it falls apart because of the apathy of the general public.
Yeah.
Because it's a voluntary assumption of our responsibilities as citizens to uphold the republic.
But you're right. But there's a book by Neil Postman called "Amusing Ourselves to Death." The media, and now the phones. Yeah, we all have we're not paying attention to what's going on in the real world. And if we do, we're getting a lot of indoctrination, a lot of propaganda, misinformation, disinformation. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I find it difficult often. Here, I mean, I tell my students
It's
to look
hard.
for propaganda techniques. We went through them all. Bandwagon,
Yeah.
for example. So, yeah, it's tough. But we never give up hope. We keep moving forward. Otherwise, we become complicit in whatever crimes are going on.
Take responsibility. Don't give up hope.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you are complicit in what unfolds.
exactly. So,
And we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. Will,
Okay.
thank you for being on.
thank you for inviting me, even though my voice was giving out.
No, you spoke a lot. Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.